Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at the NBA slate on Draftkings for Friday, November the 11th. We do have an 8-game slate for Friday, and man, it feels like forever since we've had like a normal size slate. It's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, pretty much to start the season. It's been like double-digit games, 10, 11, 12, 13 games every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then like Tuesday, Thursday, it's like 2, 3, 4 games. We actually have like a normal size slate today, so 8 games, guys. We're going to go game by game. We're going to talk through each one of these 8 games, give you guys my first looks at the slate, what I like, kind of taking a first look on Thursday night. Before we do get started with the breakdown, though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these DFS videos, please hit that like button down below and hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Also, if you're new here, check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. So PrizePicks is a player prop-based DFS site. Very simple, very easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. And they actually do have a lot of props already posted for Friday at the time of making this video. So I might have a video posted later tonight. If I don't post my PrizePicks video later tonight, I'll definitely have it up sometime early on Friday. Give you guys some props I like for this slate. If you want to check out that video, get some props I'm playing. If you want to tell me, you can do so. But if you're not signed up for PrizePicks yet, look at the bottom of the screen. You can sign up with promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And also, if you guys do enjoy all the free content that I provide on YouTube, you can get more content from me over on Patreon. I do provide a lot of additional stuff over there. I do provide additional DFS content, so I give out player pools and core plays for both Draftkings and for Yahoo. Also, I do provide additional PrizePicks plays over on Patreon. Plus, we have a Discord chat that you can join. You can see everything that I do offer over on Patreon. Just check it out. Link down below in the description if you are interested in some exclusive content, some additional content that I provide. But let's go ahead and talk through Friday's 8-game slate, guys. We're going to start off with the first game of the night, the Celtics and the Nuggets. So this is a game that I think is probably going to be somewhat low scoring. These are two fairly good defensive teams. These are two fairly slow-paced teams. I will say that so far this season, Denver's kind of been playing at a fast pace. Now that they have a fully healthy Jamal Murray, that does make sense. They're 7th in pace this season. But the Celtics, on the other hand, they're 21st in pace. I don't think this is going to be a game I really load up on today, but there definitely are some spots you can pick out here. On this slate, when you're looking for pay-up options, I mean, we're going to be missing some key pay-up options today. Giannis has already been ruled out. LeBron has already been ruled out. So I think Nikola Jokic is someone that we can definitely consider paying up for here. Normally, a matchup against the Celtics, you would not really look to target, but the Celtics, especially without Robert Williams, this is a team that you can kind of beat down low. They're not as stout defensively against bigs as they have been in previous seasons. I think once they do get Robert Williams back and he's fully healthy, they'll definitely be a much, much better defensive team. But I feel like this is kind of a sneaky good spot for Jokic, and on this slate with the with some key pay-up options missing, I think Jokic is definitely someone we can pay up for today. I do always have interest in him, and I would think he's going to come in with fairly low ownership today. So I'm definitely interested in Jokic. The Boston guys, I'm not as interested in. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both offer plenty of upside. But I've pretty much said this every slate. Where they're priced at, 10-1 for Tatum, 8-2 for Jaylen Brown. Neither one stand out at their price tags. They're just low-owned contrarian plays for me. They're not going to be guys that I really build around on this slate. But then you have some of these other Denver guys, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. Not a ton of interest in these guys either. Jamal Murray's been seeing his minutes slowly start to creep up. He's been getting kind of in the low 30s. He's 6,400, which I think is probably an appropriate price tag here for a matchup against Boston. But we've seen the upside from Jamal Murray. He had a really good game against the Pacers last game in 30 minutes, put up 39 DK points. If I had to play anyone on Denver besides Jokic, probably Jamal Murray would be my next favorite play. But there's not too much else I'm loving in this game. I do want to mention that going up against Jokic, Al Horford could be locked into big minutes here. They're going to need some size out there against Jokic. And Horford this season on a point per minute basis, his fantasy point per minute rates have not been that great. But he should play big minutes here because they're just going to need him out there. So I think 34, 35 minutes is definitely on the table for Al Horford. He's only 5,400. Horford in the past has shown that he can produce when given minutes. So far this season, his production's kind of been up and down. But it's a low-owned dart throw. I don't hate going to Al Horford today. And then I do want to mention Derek White. So we do have no Malcolm Brogdon today, which I think is actually kind of important. Malcolm Brogdon's a guy that comes off the bench, plays with the second unit, usually gets about mid to high 20s minutes. Him being out, I think the biggest beneficiary is Derek White. Now, Derek White was starting to begin the season, but they actually moved him back to the bench. He's been playing off the bench, I believe, the last 2 games. he's not been really getting many minutes, and even after Malcolm Brogdon got hurt last game, Malcolm Brogdon played 14 minutes last game before getting injured. Derek White only played 20 minutes, but he was really productive in those 20 minutes. He had 26 DraftKings points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, and a block. I think Derek White playing off the bench is actually kind of good for his fantasy value, because the more minutes he gets without Jaylen Brown, the more minutes he gets without Jason Tatum, the better, because he's just going to be way more productive with those guys not on the floor with him. And especially without Malcolm Brogdon too. Like, I think Derek White's kind of a sneaky good value here. I'll be interested to see like what his ownership projection is. I think he's going to be pretty popular. Like, I think a lot of people are going to go there. He's probably going to project pretty well at his salary. But definitely having Malcolm Brogdon out today is a nice boost for Derek White. He's really cheap. I would think he plays probably 24, 25 minutes here. He should average close to, if not just over, a fantasy point per minute. So at 4K, I do have some interest in Derek White as a value play. Him and Jokic are probably like my 2 favorite plays overall in this game. But that's it for this one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about Phoenix and Orlando. So some key injuries to watch in this game. Paolo Banchero is questionable. He missed their last game, and Chris Paul's questionable as well. He also missed the Suns' last game. So with Banchero and CP3 both questionable, it's kind of like a wait and see right now for this one. I will say that if both Banchero and Chris Paul play, there's really not much I'm liking here. You know, Devin Booker, I think at 9,400 wouldn't really be that great of a play today if Chris Paul is in. The rest of the Orlando guys, like, they all got little price bumps after, Banchero was out last game. So they're all kind of priced correctly if Banchero plays. But if these guys are out, if Banchero's out, if Chris Paul's out, then it comes a little bit more interesting. So Devin Booker obviously had a really good game last game without Chris Paul. Played 38 minutes, had 59 DraftKings points, 32 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds. His usage rate's going to be really high with Chris Paul off the floor. He's just going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to play big minutes as well. His assist numbers are going to be way up. I wouldn't be surprised to see another big Devin Booker game if Chris Paul sits. So I'm interested in Booker if he's out. And then like the Orlando guys, I think my favorite Orlando guy, if Paolo Banchero gets ruled out, would be Franz Wagner. I think he's the guy that just takes on the biggest role. Last game without Banchero, we saw Wagner take 17 shots. He played 33 minutes. He had 33 DraftKings points. In a tougher matchup against Phoenix and priced at 6,900, I don't think Wagner's like a priority today, even if Banchero gets ruled out, but he would at least be viable, and I would be considering him on this slate if Banchero does wind up sitting. The rest of the Magic, like Wendell Carter Jr., Bol, even Jalen Suggs, I don't think I'm that interested in these guys. Maybe Suggs I could get behind. Last game, he only played 26 minutes, but he was productive in those minutes. He should obviously be more productive without Banchero if Banchero were to sit. I do want to mention Chuma Okeke. So Chuma Okeke did start last game in place of Banchero. He played pretty good minutes, 32 minutes. He wasn't super productive, only had 20 DraftKings points. He's still somewhat cheap at 4,500, so if Banchero does sit again, we can look to Okeke for value. I don't think he's going to be like a priority value play. I think there definitely will be better value available, but Okeke will become an option if Banchero doesn't play. And then do want to mention some of these other Suns guys. So if Chris Paul is out, Mikal Bridges was a guy that benefited a ton last game. He's only 6,500, which I hate to say only 6,500 because, after he scored 59 DraftKings points, obviously 6,500 looks like a steal, but I wouldn't expect 59 DraftKings points again from Mikal Bridges. He's just normally not that kind of player, but I think it is likely that he does continue to take on a bigger role if Chris Paul remains out. He took 20 shots last game, which I think was a season high. It was a season high for him, not even close. So maybe he'll be way more aggressive offensively if Chris Paul isn't out there. We know he's going to be locked into big minutes. He's usually a guy that can get some rebounds and a couple assists too. He's just kind of like a GPP option, but if Chris Paul does not play, I do have a little bit of interest in Mikal Bridges. I don't know if DeAndre Ayton's role really changes without Chris Paul. Last game he wasn't very productive. He only had 18 DraftKings points in 33 minutes. I would definitely expect better production today from DeAndre Ayton, but I don't think I'd be running to roster him, even if Chris Paul is out. And then Cameron Payne, the last guy we'll mention, he started last game in place of CP3, played 35 minutes, had 46 DraftKings points. Cameron Payne has always shown, the ability to produce when given minutes, and obviously if Chris Paul were to sit, expect Cameron Payne to start, expect him to play low to mid-30s minutes once again. The price tag obviously came up to 5,700, but I still think at 5,700, Cameron Payne would be a pretty solid play today if Chris Paul's out. So a lot of kind of if-thens right now in this Phoenix-Orlando game. This will be one we kind of have to keep an eye on. Luckily, this is one of the first games of the night, so we'll have this news before lock, and we can make adjustments. But let's go and move on to the next game, the Knicks and the Pistons. So this is another one where we have some key question marks, or at least one key question mark with Cade Cunningham, who is currently questionable. Cade Cunningham, I don't think has missed a game yet this season, so this is kind of big news. If Cade Cunningham were to sit, I would expect bigger roles for guys like Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, Bojan Bogdanovic, and I'm guessing you would probably see Corey Joseph start in place of Cade Cunningham. I know in a game earlier this year when Jaden Ivey was out, they started Corey Joseph, so I guess Corey Joseph would get the start in place of Cade Cunningham. I don't think that's a guarantee, but that's my guess. Corey Joseph is really cheap. He's $3,200. I'd assume if he does start, he would play pretty decent minutes, so he'd be an interesting value play if Cade gets ruled out. And these other guys would definitely become more appealing. Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, and Bojan. I think Jaden Ivey would be my favorite just because he has shown to be a pretty good point-per-minute player. And so far, especially as of late, the production has been really good for Jaden Ivey. 30, 49, 45 DK points over his last 3 games. He would definitely take on a bigger role. He's been rebounding really well this season. But he would definitely take on more usage without Cade if Cade were to sit. Probably would be able to be more aggressive offensively too. And 5,700 would definitely be a steal for Jaden Ivey. So Ivey, I would like quite a bit. I think Sadiq Bey would get a little boost. He would definitely be viable. I think Bojan would get a little boost. I think he'd be viable. So these Pistons guys, I normally don't get excited to roster many Pistons, but if Cade Cunningham is out, I do have some interest in some of these Pistons. Now, if Cade Cunningham plays, I'm not going to be interested in really any of these other guys, but I think Cade Cunningham at 7,200 would look like a pretty good play today if he's able to go. He was terrible last game against Boston, but I think we can expect him to bounce back here. Obviously, the matchup against the Knicks is not the best. The Knicks this season, they're one of the slower-paced teams in the league, I know. Or at least last season, they were a pretty slow-paced team. So far this season, they're about middle of the pack in terms of pace. But in terms of defensive rating, I mean, they are, let's see where they are in defensive rating. They're about middle of the pack in defensive rating as well. They're 19th there. So, I don't think it's a terrible matchup for Cade. It's definitely a better matchup than having to face Boston. So, I would definitely expect Cade Cunningham to bounce back today. And 7,200 is really cheap for Cade Cunningham. I'm pretty sure this is the cheapest he's been, all season. Or he was 7K on opening night. But this is a guy that normally should be priced, in the lower 8s. He should be 8,200 and not 7,200. So, I definitely think Cade, if he plays, is really appealing. And then on the Knicks side, the one guy that I definitely like from the Knicks today is Jalen Brunson. We've seen point guards just absolutely go off against the Pistons this season. I'm pretty sure the Pistons are giving up the most fancy points to the point guard position so far this year. So it's a sneaky good spot for Jalen Brunson. He was terrible last game against the Nets, but I would expect him to bounce back here in a really good matchup. Price tag at 6,800 is reasonable. I think he has the upside to pay off this price tag, especially in this spot. He's probably my favorite play on the Knicks, but if you want to go to Julius Randle in tournaments, I don't hate that. Probably not considering anyone else, though, on this Knicks team, and I think that probably is it for this game. So we can go ahead and move on to the next game, talk about Toronto and OKC. So looking at the Raptors, once again, no Pascal Siakam, so we kind of know who to target on Toronto. Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, and Gary Trent. Those are the guys that are locked into big minutes that are going to get all the usage. Looking at these Toronto guys, when you're looking at the price tags, I think my favorite, it's close between Fred VanVleet and OG Anunoby. I think I would still put VanVleet ahead of OG, but those are probably my 2 favorite plays on Toronto. VanVleet's just been great without Pascal Siakam. Last 3 games, 56, 46, and 54 DK points. He's playing massive minutes every night. He should once again play massive minutes here. VanVleet's a guy that always can handle playing huge minutes. He's been taking on a much bigger scoring role without Siakam, and I would expect that to continue. So I'm definitely interested in VanVleet, even at an $8,400 salary. Same goes for OG Anunoby, who's taken on a really big role. Took 20 shots last game, 19 shots in their first game without Siakam, 42 DK points, 52 DK points. He did have that down game against Chicago, but we've seen OG be a guy that can produce when given minutes. We know he's also locked into big minutes, and his usage, his per minute production should increase with Siakam off the floor. Plus, the price tag is $7,100. Didn't really move. I mean, it did move after the first game without Siakam, but at $7,100, I still think OG is viable at this salary. And then Scotty Barnes at $8K is okay, but he's probably my 3rd favorite play on Toronto. And then Gary Trent at $5,800. He's kind of been like a wild card this season, but I definitely think his upside is a little bit higher without Siakam. He's probably my 4th favorite play on Toronto. Don't think I'm considering anyone else on the Raptors today. Chris Boucher is a guy that offers upside. His minutes are always tough to predict, though. In the last 2 games, his minutes have really gone down, so it's kind of hard to go there. Koloko, it's a really good matchup for Koloko, and he's been starting lately in place of Siakam. He's been dealing with some foul trouble lately. I want to say that if he's not in foul trouble, he probably plays low 20s minutes, and OKC's a team that gives up a lot of fantasy points to opposing centers. So I think it is a really good spot for Koloko. I'm not I'm not confident he plays huge minutes. But again, he's been in foul trouble lately, so it's really been tough to tell. That first game without Siakam, he played 31 minutes and was really good. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of those type of games from Koloko today, just because the matchup is so good. But again, not like not a priority value play today. And then or I guess I do want to mention that Precious Achiuwa is out, so that's actually kind of important. Achiuwa was getting decent minutes off the bench, and he's a guy that can take some minutes away from like Boucher and Koloko. So I would say Achiuwa being out is a slight bump for both Boucher and Koloko. Not like a massive boost, but I definitely think it does make those guys a little bit more appealing. Again, Koloko is probably the one I prefer there. And on the OKC side, I mean, there's nothing to like really on OKC. It's a really tough matchup. Toronto's a good defensive team. I think SGA is a guy that offers plenty of upside every single night. He's been playing really, really well lately, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game where SGA does kind of struggle a little bit, just because Toronto has historically been a team that can limit these good scoring guards. We've seen a lot of good scoring guards like Trae Young, James Harden have had a lot of troubles against Toronto. Not saying that SGA is going to have a bad game today, but I think this is one of the tougher matchups he's had all season. So I don't know if I'm running to roster SGA today, but I still think he is viable. The $9,200 salary is too cheap. He should be like $10K plus right now with how well he's playing. But he's the only guy I'm considering on OKC. Nothing else looks good on this team. So let's move on to the next game, the Bucks and the Spurs. This is probably the game we're going to spend the most time on, because we definitely have to talk about Milwaukee. Well, first, we'll hit on San Antonio first, because it's kind of easy to go through San Antonio. For the Spurs, I'm really only considering the starters, and it's kind of like the four main starters: Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Jakob Poeltl, and Trey Jones. Where these guys are priced at on DraftKings, I don't think any of them are priority plays today. Vassell's been playing really well, but he's almost $7K now. Keldon Johnson feels priced right at $7,100. Jakob Poeltl feels priced right at $6,700. I think Trey Jones would be my favorite of all the Spurs. He's only $5,600. We've seen him have two really good back-to-back games: 33 minutes, 37 minutes, 42, 35 DraftKings points. He's still only $5,600, so that's kind of cheap for a guy that's been getting mid to high 30s minutes and historically should average about a fantasy point per minute. This Milwaukee team is not a team I like to target. They've been a really good defensive team this season, but without Giannis and without Drew, I think we can expect this Milwaukee defense to be way worse than they've been this season. So might be actually kind of a good matchup for these Spurs guys. Trey Jones probably my favorite of all the Spurs today. And then on the Milwaukee side, so no Giannis and no Drew. Once again, we saw Milwaukee play without Giannis and Drew on Wednesday. So we can kind of look to see what happened Wednesday, kind of get a good estimate of how rotations are going to work for today. Bobby Portis was a really popular play on Wednesday. I played him in my main lineup. I'm sure a lot of you guys played Portis as well. He was a chalk bust. He played 34 minutes in overtime, only had 28 DraftKings points. I'm going back to Bobby Portis today. I think even at $7K, he has the upside to blow this price out of the water. I would not be surprised to see Bobby Portis put up 50 DraftKings points today. It's a really, really good matchup against the Spurs. The Spurs play fast. They don't play any defense. Portis, we know, is a guy that can soak up a lot of usage, and obviously, without Drew and Giannis, there's so much usage available right now. I would expect a much better game from Bobby Portis today. I'm still interested in him even at $7K. I think he's still a really good play, and hopefully his ownership is lower than it was last slate after he busted. I'm hoping people are kind of scared to go there. I'm fine going right back to Bobby Portis. And then the rest of the Bucks, so Brook Lopez had a really big game, 55 DK points. He had 24 points, 13 rebounds, 5 blocks. I mean, kind of typical Brook Lopez style, getting those blocks. 13 rebounds. I don't know if I'd expect that to happen again. But it looks like Brook Lopez is going to take on a really big role without Giannis and Drew. I was a little skeptical on Brook Lopez having a massive usage rate, but he was productive last game. He played huge minutes in that overtime or double overtime game, I do believe. I'd expect him to play pretty big minutes once again here. Really good matchup again, so I'm still interested in Brook Lopez. And then the guards I'm interested in too. I mean, these guys, they got priced up, but man, without Giannis and Drew, there's just so much usage available that somebody's going to have to put the ball in the basket. We saw Javon Carter go absolutely nuts last game. He had 62 DraftKings points, 36 points, 12 assists, 4 rebounds. He played 45 minutes in double overtime. Obviously, got to temper expectations a little bit with Javon Carter today. Do not expect 62 DraftKings points again. But clearly, he's a guy that looks like he's going to be productive without Giannis and Drew. He's going to take shots. He's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He should, I think he should be $6K. 5,300 does still feel a little bit too cheap for Javon Carter. Again, I'm not expecting 62 DraftKings points, but I think 28 to 30 DK points feels pretty likely here. And at 5,300, that's still pretty good. So I'm interested in Javon Carter a lot. I'm interested in Grayson Allen as well. He got big minutes, 35 minutes in the double overtime. Wasn't as productive as Javon Carter, but 32 DK points, 18 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds. He only took 8 shots, so like he wasn't super aggressive offensively, but he was really efficient with his shooting. He's been a pretty efficient shooter just throughout his career. He handled the ball more as well. He had 6 assists last game. Still think Grayson Allen at 5,100 looks pretty solid. And then we saw Marshawn Beauchamp. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. He was the 5th starter, and he actually got some good minutes as a starter. He played 30 minutes, was pretty productive, had 34 Draftkings points. I'm not as high on Beauchamp, but I think if he does start again, which he probably will, he probably gets like low to mid-20s minutes. I don't think it's a guarantee he plays as many minutes today, but if he comes out and plays well, I think they're more likely to give him bigger minutes versus some of these other bench guys that we'll talk about in a second. So Beauchamp, I think, is a solid value too. And then the bench guys, I think there are some viable pieces here. We saw George Hill get a lot of run off the bench. He played 35 minutes, had 28 Draftkings points. Again, the game went to double overtime, so kind of temper expectations a little bit. But I think George Hill's going to get like low 20s minutes. He's only 3,900. He's playable. I played Jordan Nwora in my main lineup last slate, and he was a bit of a disappointment. He only got 17 minutes. I was definitely expecting way more than 17 minutes. I was expecting like 24, 25. He only had 14 Draftkings points, but he also shot the ball terribly. He shot 1 for 9 from the field and 1 for 5 from 3. I think Jordan Nwora is one of these guys that we've seen before. Without Giannis and Drew, Nwora is someone that can produce when given minutes, and I think if he comes out and shoots the ball better today, it's pretty likely he'll play more than 17 minutes. I think one of the reasons he only played 17 minutes just because he wasn't really making shots. Like there's a good chance that Beauchamp only plays 22 minutes today and Nwora plays 25, and you see Nwora get a lot more minutes today. So even though he did not have a great game last game, I still kind of like Jordan Nwora in GPPs. I think his ownership will be low. I think the upside is still there. And obviously this is a really good matchup against San Antonio. So I'm definitely on Nwora as a GPP value play. And that's probably it for Milwaukee. I don't think really anyone else is in play. So let's move on to the next game. Got a few more to cover real quick. So Minnesota and Memphis. This should be a track meet. These are two fast-paced teams. So far this season, Minnesota, they're playing at the 3rd fastest pace in the league. Memphis has been about middle of the pack in pace, but I haven't seen totals yet, but I'm pretty sure this game is going to have like a massive total. Should be a close game as well. I think Ja Morant is probably like one of the best pay-up options today, up there with Jokic. I mean, Ja Morant for 10K, I'm totally fine paying this price tag for him in this spot. Home matchup against a fast-paced Grizzlies or a fast-paced Timberwolves team that I think has also kind of been struggling defensively this season. The Timberwolves, they've been about middle of the pack in defensive rating, but again, this team does play very fast. We know Ja is going to thrive in these fast-paced games, so yeah, I'm really interested in Ja today. I think he's a great play. Karl-Anthony Towns and like the rest of the Minnesota guys, I'm not as high on. I think it is a good matchup, and I think this game is going to be played at such a fast pace that one of these Minnesota guys probably does well. Towns is 9,300. That feels priced right. Rudy Gobert is 7,700. Does feel a little bit too cheap, but he's also been pretty bad lately. He did finally have a good game, though, last game against Phoenix. 45 DK points in 30 minutes. I think if I was going to go to someone on Minnesota, it probably would be Rudy Gobert for me at his Draftkings price tag. I probably would rank them when you factor in price, Gobert, Edwards, Towns, and then Russell. Russell, his price tag's low, but he's just not really been getting a ton of minutes. He did play 33 minutes last game, but his minutes have kind of been all over the place this season. He's fine. Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see him have a good game here, but I really like Ja. He's the guy that stands out the most in this game. The rest of the Memphis guys, like, Desmond Bane at 8K, I'm not super interested in. Brooks, Adams, they don't really stand out. I think Steven Adams is going to have to play big minutes here because they're going to need his size against Gobert and Towns. And Adams is someone that has shown, he can produce when he does get minutes. So, like, if I had to play someone other than Ja from Memphis, Steven Adams would probably be my next favorite play. But that's really it from this game. I don't see anything else I'm liking here. Clearly the guy I want to try and get in this game is Ja Morant. And then, Gobert, Edwards, Cat are fine. I would say Gobert is probably my second favorite or my favorite play from Minnesota, but definitely Ja is the guy I like the most. Steven Adams, fine as well. But let's move on to the next game. I think we got two more to cover, two late night games. So we got the Cavs and the Warriors today in this one of these late night games. I really don't see a ton I'm liking in this one. Cleveland's been one of the better defensive teams in the league this season. So these Golden State guys, I'm not super high on, especially where they're priced at. Steph Curry always offers plenty of upside, but I think this is kind of a tougher spot for him. And on this slate, I think I'd rather pay up for for Ja Morant, for Jokic, even maybe Sabonis we're going to talk about. You got Anthony Davis playing without LeBron, so not super interested in Curry. The rest of the Cleveland guys, I do want to talk about Darius Garland. He's the guy that I like the most in this game. So Darius Garland was very popular last slate and was a chalk bust. He was 6,900. He was I think he was 30% owned in most of the GPPs I was in. He played 34 minutes, only had 16 DraftKings points. I'm fine going back to Darius Garland today. I still think 7,400 is too cheap for him. He should be 8,400. There's no reason for him to be this price tag. We've seen Garland when he's healthy, he's going to play big minutes. He's going to be productive. Golden State's been playing at one of the fastest paces in the league this season. This is a big-time pace-up spot for the Cavs. So definitely like Darius Garland in this game. He's probably my favorite play overall in this one. But I do want to mention the bigs from Cleveland. So Golden State has been really getting killed by bigs this season. They've been giving up a lot of fancy points to centers. I think it's a sneaky good matchup for Jared Allen. Jared Allen, not normally a guy that I go out of my way to play, but this could definitely be a spot where he gets 20 points and 15 rebounds, has a game where has a game like he had against the Clippers where he had 10 and 20, 49 DraftKings points. I wouldn't be surprised to see that type of game from Jared Allen today. In GPPs, he is interesting because the matchup is so good. And then Evan Mobley's only 5,700. This still does feel too cheap. I know Mobley was disappointing last game, but again, Golden State's been getting killed by bigs this year. I think it's a sneaky good matchup for Evan Mobley. Golden State plays at a fast pace as well, so yeah, for 5,700 and 6,600 for Allen and Mobley, those two guys are viable for me. But I think Garland is still my favorite play on Cleveland. And again, on the Golden State side, I'm not seeing much I like on Golden State here. Steph, Wiggins, Clay, Draymond, they all feel priced about right today. Not a ton I like on the Warriors. So that'll do it for that game. Let's talk about the last game of the night, the Kings and the Lakers. So interesting one here. No LeBron James. He's already been ruled out for this game. So on the Lakers side, we can expect a pretty massive role for Anthony Davis. Obviously, Anthony Davis has kind of been banged up himself, but I would expect him to play huge minutes here. He's going to have to carry a massive workload. I mean, they need him offensively because they really don't have a ton of other offensive firepower behind Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. So assuming this game stays close, which against a bad Kings team it probably should, we should get 35, 36 minutes from Anthony Davis here. 10,200, I still think even at this salary, AD is still a pretty good pay-up option. And then Russell Westbrook at 7,300, I like quite a bit. So without LeBron, they've already said that Westbrook's going to come off the bench. But last game without LeBron, he played only 24 minutes. I think it was a blowout. He was also in foul trouble. He was still really productive. He had 37 DraftKings points in just 24 minutes. And we've seen Westbrook be a pretty solid, Westbrook's actually been kind of good this season, at least for fantasy. Now, for real life basketball, has he been helping the team win? I've been watching a lot of Lakers games, and he's been playing well. He's been facilitating. He's been getting the hustle stats. He kind of looks like his old self. He's got that energy that we've always known Westbrook to have. So at 7,300, even coming off the bench, I still think Westbrook is a pretty good play today. He should have a really big role without LeBron. He should handle the ball a lot in that second unit. And this price tag, I think, is still a little bit too low for him. I mean, without LeBron, Westbrook should average well over a fantasy point per minute. And even coming off the bench, he should play 33, 34 minutes probably. Low 30s, I would say. So definitely, AD and Westbrook are the two best plays on the Lakers. The secondary guys like Lonnie Walker, Patrick Beverley, Troy Brown, I mean, these guys are just kind of like dart throws. I will say that if Lonnie Walker plays today, he's kind of interesting. We've seen Lonnie Walker actually be pretty productive this season when given minutes, and he's kind of been one of the Lakers' top scoring options. And obviously without LeBron, there's a lot of usage available. So kind of interested in Lonnie Walker, not as much on Beverley or Troy Brown. These guys just haven't showed a ton of upside this season. And then on the Kings side, it's a really good matchup here for the Kings. I mean, the Lakers this season, they've been playing at the fastest pace in the league. In terms of defensive rating, they are they're middle of the pack, but they do play at a really fast pace. The Kings are this season, I'm pretty sure they're just outside the top 10 in pace. So they're kind of similar to Minnesota and Memphis. This should be another fast-paced, high-scoring game. I think it's a great spot for both De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis. Fox in this fast-paced game should definitely thrive. The Lakers, they have Patrick Beverley now, but I don't think Beverley's the kind of guy at this point in his career that's really going to slow down a young, quick point guard like De'Aaron Fox. This is a matchup where Fox should definitely have plenty of success. At 8,600, I'm still fine rostering Fox at the salary, even though he's kind of been disappointing the last two games. This is definitely a good matchup for him. And then Domantas Sabonis, I mean, the Lakers are another team that's been getting killed by bigs this season, been giving up a lot of fancy points to centers. I think it's a really good matchup for Sabonis, and we've seen Sabonis be really productive lately. He's been staying out of foul trouble. When he stays out of foul trouble, he normally plays 35, 36 minutes, and that's what we should get from him here if he stays out of foul trouble. And we know Sabonis is a guy that can stuff the stat sheet, can do everything, score, rebound, get assist. Really like Sabonis here. Do worry a little bit about him guarding Anthony Davis. I think there is some foul trouble risk there, but the matchup's so good. The price tag is still affordable. I definitely think Sabonis is a strong play. And there's really nothing else I'm liking on the Kings. I think my favorite plays in this game are definitely kind of the stars. AD, Fox, Sabonis, Westbrook. Those are the guys I like most in this one. And then if you want to go to Lonnie Walker, if he plays, I think he's like an okay value. But that's it for the Kings-Lakers game, and that's it for this 8-game Friday night slate, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, appreciate you watching. Hit that like button if you enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you're new to the channel, check out PrizePicks. They are the sponsor of this video. You can sign up for PrizePicks and use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. And like we said at the beginning of the video, PrizePicks is a player prop-based DFS site. Very simple, very easy to use. You're just taking more or less on a player's projection. And as you can see, they already do have some projections posted for Friday. I'm going to take a look at the board after I finish this video and see if I can find some plays I like. If I do find any props I like, taking a first look at the board, I'll go ahead and get a video posted tonight sharing some plays I like for today. And if you guys want to check out that video, tell some plays I'm on, you can do so. But if you're not playing on PrizePicks yet, get signed up, use promo code NOAH. You will get your first deposit matched up to $100 when you do sign up with my promo code. But as always, best of luck tonight, guys. Appreciate you watching the video. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you in the next one.